Gingy Brown from SolBox Fitness Club.
So Ken walked in. As soon as he walked in, I said, "Yo, what are your thoughts on the Jacobs Canelo fight?" And we started rapping. So I said, "Look, I'm gonna share with you, my feelings about it, and I'm gonna try to sum it up shortly. He can probably edit it, but."
Nah, we going raw, uncut.
Okay, raw, uncut. So
no edits in SolBox.
I think in a fighter, in a lot of different fighters, they say styles make fights. That's an old adage. It's as true as the day is long in the summer. So a different opponent will bring out a different skill set, or maybe a different skill set will be showcased prominently in a fighter who's evolving like Canelo. Some people love him, some people hate him. But one of the things that you can argue is that over the past 7 years, especially since the Mayweather fight, Canelo's defensive sensibilities have really heightened each fight. This particular fight, in my mind, his defense was on center stage. So I don't know if it was because he was really respecting Danny Jacobs, didn't want to take those shots flush on, like who does, but I think it was the culmination of him training his defensive skills really, really hard. I also heard that he had knee problems, so if you notice, he didn't have a lot of lateral movement. His footwork was really minimal, but his waist movement and his head movement was on the money. He was right there in the pocket. But what was not showcased, which was showcased in the prior Triple G fights, was his offensive onslaught. I never once felt like Danny Jacobs was in trouble. I never once felt like he was hurt. Canelo threw a lot of well-placed punches, counter punches, left hooks, but 1-2 punches at a time, not a lot of combinations put together. But his defensive combinations were like so fluid that you just looked at that.
That jab, he was popping that jab though.
He was popping that jab, but
there was a couple times that jab actually backed Danny Jacobs up.
It did, but not enough to deter Jacobs from what it was that he came to do. Both men finished on their feet, and the difference is that at the end of the Triple G fight, Triple G's face looked like he was in a fight, and his whole body mechanics was different in the second fight, where he was on the back foot for the whole time. Danny Jacobs was using his footwork. He backed up when he needed to, but he wasn't in one. He wasn't going backwards for the whole time. So I got to give Jacobs a lot of credit because he stood right there with him. A lot of his punches were missing. He threw more combinations, but they didn't land as cleanly as Canelo. But to sum it up, the star of the show was Canelo's defense. Almost to the point where sometimes it just looked choreographed. It was like, damn, bro, you're slipping 5 and 6 punches. Like, who does that? A guy who practices slipping punches. A guy that practices getting out the way. But he was right in the pocket. It was a good fight, but I didn't feel anything from the fight. There was no emotional, for me, as a fan, as a watcher, there was no emotional content, as Bruce Lee would say.
Some fans were saying that Canelo got exposed in this fight.
I'm not going to say that, because if you get exposed, you get hurt. I mean, when I heard that he dominated the fight, in my mind, domination is an offensive onslaught where a guy's not firing back because he can't match your firepower. That didn't happen. He maybe controlled the tempo, he maybe controlled the distance, he was in control of a lot of things, but there's no way that I can say he dominated Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs was never in the corner, he wasn't on the ropes, bent over, the ref didn't have to break him up, there was not excessive clenching. It was a really clean fight. It was a really, really clean fight where what I didn't see, like I said, was that Cesar Chavez type of, yo, you know what? I'm coming in. I'm going to fuck you up now. I mean, classic fight, Meltic Taylor and Julio Cesar Chavez. And Meltic Taylor was dominating that fight offensively. But, Chavez's his will, his determination, we know what happened. And that is a type of fight where you go, oh my God, you feel shit 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 days later, a week later, even talking about it, you get emotional. This fight didn't really elicit any emotions for me as a fan, but I did see an incredible evolution of defensive skill set.
But you're talking about two guys in the top division. These guys are,
well,
a lot of people say it was a boring fight, but that's, hey, you're talking about 1 and 2.
On what you're looking for. I mean,
right.
as a technical purist, and you're looking for things that are like give and take, it wasn't boring if you understood what you're looking at. If you're looking for a fight, the fight never broke out. They had an incredible boxing match, a high-level boxing match, but the fight itself never really broke out. And so fight fans still want to see a fight happen in a boxing match. I don't care. This man always brought you a fight. You understand? And there's a lot of people on this wall who brought you a fight. These guys are at the top. They brought you a fight. When in 1956, Archie Moore is already getting old, but he still recorded the most knockouts. He came to fight. Floyd Patterson, youngest heavyweight champion, beating Archie Moore. He brought you a fight. Duran brought you a fight. You know, Tyson brought you a fight. Marciano brought you a fight. Joe Louis brought you a fight. Sugar Ray Robinson brought you a fight. Even with all their skill sets, they brought you a fight because they knew that the fans wanted to see a fight. And it was the fight game. Boxing was the conduit for the fight. And different times, different measures, different sciences, different curses. There's a lot of different variables from these days, but I'm not taking anything away from either one of them. Not every fight's going to be emotional. Some fights have to be there where they are. They're not always going to be exciting, which brings me back to my first point. Two fighters will bring out something unique in each other. It's not always going to be the same. And, you know.
Were you okay with the decision?
I was okay with it because Jacobs is not going to win a split decision against Canelo, and nobody is. Canelo is now what Mayweather
Well,
was.
besides that, just you viewing it, would you score it the same?
Yes, because, well, not unanimous. I can't, what was it, like 7-5 or something like that? I tend not to get caught up in the intricacies of the scoring card because scoring is always a little bit subjective unless it's purely dominating. Right. You know, for instance, Iron Mike never let nothing to the judges. His controversy was biting people's ears and the shit he did outside the ring. But inside of the ring, and Cuss taught him, don't leave it in their hands. You go in there and be a fucking beast. And don't respect anybody's skills more than you believe in your own. That kind of thing, I think, has been lost. Obviously, we don't want to see people getting their ears bit. Nobody wants that. But I prefer, as far as the emotional content of the fight, the Triple G fights, as opposed to this last one. Love Danny Jacobs. He's an incredible fighter, an incredible dude. These dudes are playing chess, and they played a great game of chess. But you know,
Hey, if Daniel would have came to SolBox Fitness Club, he would have dominated, man.
Not necessarily, man.
He would have dominated, man.
Look, I'm from the Bronx, man, and them boroughs that start with BRO, boy, they ain't no joke. Bronx and Brooklyn, so much respect to Danny Jacobs, man. That brother, he has overcome things that most human beings can't and won't. And he knew, I think his victory was not just a moral victory, but a psychological victory. Like, brother, you're not knocking me out. No standing 8 counts. You're not hurting me. You can have the win. You know I went toe-to-toe with you. He did that also with Triple G. And that makes those guys fight differently next time. Next time, I think Canelo's going to have to put on more firepower on whoever he fights and maybe match his defense with his offense so they're neck and neck.
Well, they're talking about Earl Spence, possibly. You think Earl Spence will come up and wait and fight Canelo? Or
he's young enough to come up and wait. If he's fighting at 147, he probably walks around 160, maybe more. Remember, a few years ago, Canelo was a welterweight, then he went to super welter. And when they first wanted him to fight Triple G, he said, I'm not a natural middleweight. Now look at him. So these young men are still growing. Their bodies are growing. They can't.
But do you think it'll be smart for him to go up or just chill out and welterweight and just do what he does?
I think he's got enough skill and grit to go up progressively. I don't think he'll get hurt the way Kell Brook got hurt going up against Triple G. I don't see that happening to Earl Spence.
Right.
I don't see that happening. A natural weight progression would probably do him good. But right now, welterweight got a lot of firepower and a lot of exciting fighters. So his best bet is probably just hanging out there and, you know, matching up with the real switcher-upper, Terrence Crawford. And every time Terrence Crawford fights, he leaves no doubt in your mind that he's going to dominate you.
Well, you know what he has to do before he fights Terrence Crawford?
What's that?
Come to SolBox Fitness Club.
Oh, they all need to come to Miami. Look, they need to come to Miami and come to the hood. Even though the hood is getting gentrified, it's still the hood. You know, y'all need to come see this shit before it's too glitzy, while it's still got a little grit. I've been here at SolBox when people were afraid to come here because of the projects across the street called the Graveyard. You know what I'm saying? But we never had no problems because we only got positivity and love. Always, you know, people respect a good boxing gym in the hood. I'm from the hood, but I got out the streets.
Gingy's had to dummy some people up first before
No. I know how to use my vocals, man. You know what I'm saying? I know how to talk to brothers and bring situations down. I'm not trying to turn shit up. I'm trying to turn shit down.
Boxing is love, right?
Boxing is love. That's it.